So here's my first quick look at the Samsung NX500, kind of 3 years late, but you all know I do have a problem with punctuality. Then again, the first time around I checked this camera out to see whether it might become my first YouTube camera. I just didn't like the heavy crop in 4K video mode, and I especially didn't appreciate the fact that she couldn't use external audio and record directly to the camera. Ever since then though, I've come to appreciate 4K video modes, even if it's not a super wide angle shot, and I found other ways to record external audio and use it with cameras such as this that don't have a mic input. So I'm near the financial district in Stuttgart where I live, and I'm going to set up shop there and put this camera through its paces. So let's check out how well it performs 3 years after its release. Now, the most important thing to me when it comes to a camera is its autofocus system. I want to have quick, precise, reliable autofocus performance. If I don't get that, usually that means I'm not going to use the camera for an extended period of time. Fortunately enough, the NX500 right here, at least on paper, comes equipped with a very capable autofocus system with quite some face detection autofocus points. So it should perform really well under good lighting conditions. Also, it's customizable from within the menu. So for this test, I'm going all out. Max responsiveness and max speed. Quick recap of the autofocus performance. 1080p video mode from in front of the camera, from behind the camera, performed really well. In my opinion, it actually left nothing to be desired. It was quick, responsive, reliable, and this is what I'm looking for. Same thing goes for 4K video mode with one weakness: low contrast foreground subject and high millimeters. In this case it was 50. The camera struggled. So overall, very good autofocus performance. Slight weakness in 4K video mode, low contrast foreground subject, high millimeters, but still workable under good lighting conditions. And since we are in somewhat of a windy spot right now, it's as good a time as any to talk about audio quality. The internal microphones of the NX500, considering they are 3 years old, actually deliver decent performance. I'd say you're getting at least usable audio for most situations. One problem remains though, and that is wind distortion. So should you be using the internal microphones, you should also be using micro wind masks for wind protection, like I'm doing right now. They are going to make a tremendous difference, and they are going to get you way better audio quality in a windy situation than the internal microphones would if they are not wind protected. Best case scenario, record the audio externally, make sure it's wind protected, and later on sync it in post-production. This is what I'm doing right now, using this lavalier that I wind protected with a micro dead cat that records directly into my Zoom H1 field recorder. And later on, I'm going to take this external audio, sync it to the internal audio track of the NX500, but only use the higher quality external audio. So let's talk screen and menu. The screen is a really good screen. I definitely like working with it in most situations. The one thing I don't like about it, you can't really crank up the screen brightness to where it's still usable on a bright sunny day. And since you don't have a viewfinder on this camera, this really is a problem in such situations. Other than that, it's a super AMOLED screen. Contrast is good, sharpness is good. It's a little saturated, but it's fine. So overall, it's a capable screen you can use to judge focus and to, in general, judge what you're shooting. Now the menu, not really feature-rich, I'd say, rather simple, but it's got all the things you need and even some things that are just nice to have, like for example the aforementioned autofocus customization. So usability is very high with this camera, customizability is low. But then again, that depends on who's using the camera, and since this is aimed at beginners, it's actually pretty good the way it is. When it comes to video modes, the first thing you're going to notice is there is a lot of them. Here's the cream of the crop. You can shoot 720p resolution at 100 frames per second, giving you the option of a 4x slow motion. You can shoot 1080p Full HD at 24, 25 and 60 frames per second. In the case of 60 frames, you're getting the option of a 2x slow motion. Then there's two 4K video modes. Number one is Ultra HD resolution, which is 3840 by 2160 pixels. You can shoot that at 25 frames per second, but unfortunately it comes with a 1.5x crop. Then on top of that, which is rare for a camera like this, you can shoot DC HD 4K, coming in at a resolution of 4096 pixels by 2160 pixels. You can shoot 24 frames per second in this video mode, and again, it comes with a 1.5x crop. Now for anything but vlogging, the crop actually isn't that much of a problem. You could just step back from the camera to compensate for it. However, if you do want to vlog with this camera in 4K video mode, that means getting a super wide angle lens, and in case of the NX mount, that's round about another $400 out of your pocket. If you're a vlogger and you intend to vlog with this camera in 4K, that means spending additional money, unfortunately. Now, as far as battery life is concerned, I'm not too impressed. The batteries do carry more charge than the tiny Sony ones an A5100 is using, for example. So I was hoping to get better performance out of the NX500 than I would out of an A5100. Actually, I think the performance is a little worse or comparable at best. So if you want to vlog with this camera and shoot with it for a full day, you're definitely going to carry around between 4 and 6 of those tiny batteries, for sure. So here's the obligatory low-light performance test. I want to get the best performance out of the camera, so I'm shooting Full HD at 24 frames per second with f3.5 wide open. I'm going to start at an ISO of 100 and then just work my way up. Now the NX500 performed as well or as poorly, depending on how you look at it, as you would expect an APS-C size sensor camera to perform. I wouldn't push her above 3200 ISO, it's personal preference, but that is as much noise as I can personally tolerate. Now the problem with the autofocus system of the NX500 in low light is not that it can't perform, but that you can't be sure when it will perform. Wide open at 16mm in both 1080p and 4K video mode, you're getting about 90% of the shots in, which is pretty good. But if you go to 50mm in 1080p, that drops to around 65 to 75%, and in 4K video mode, at least with the tests that I did, I got mostly unusable results. Sometimes it will perform better than you would expect it to do, but sometimes it won't perform at all. So baseline, in low light, it's an unreliable system. My recommendation is stay wide open, stay at 16mm, preferably stay in 1080p video mode, and if you have to shoot 4K, stay behind the camera. So, if you liked the video, if you found it helpful, please make sure to leave a thumbs up, it's greatly appreciated. Any kind of comment or feedback is welcome, and I'll try to answer as quickly as possible. All the tech that I've used in this video is linked in the description. As always, thank you so much for your time, thank you for watching, and hopefully see you again soon.